Hey guys, so today we are doing day one of the test review. We'll review today, tomorrow, and then also our test, remember, that is going to be on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so just keep that in mind. Today we're going to talk about reviewing, verifying if expressions are equivalent by using tables, by using graphs, and then also algebraically, along with, factoring and multiplying polynomials. So, let's start with equivalence here. If I give you these two expressions and I'm like, okay, are these equivalent? Remember that if you're doing the table, the first thing you want to do is go to your calculator and go to y equals. I have already typed the first one in for us, so let's go ahead and see what the table looks like. I'm going to hit second and graph to get to the table. And here I have my table. So I want the 0 through 5, so that's this bottom portion. So I know I'm going to have 3, 0, negative 1, 0, 3, 8. So let's go ahead and write those down. Right, 3, 0, I don't remember. Alright, negative 1, 0, 3, 8. Okay, so that's my first table. And now I'm going to go ahead and type in my second expression and see what the table is for that. So I will just type it in as I see it. That's not as I see it. Alright. Okay, press second and then graph. Take us to our table. So that one's going to be in the red here. So let's pull that back up. Our red, so we have 3, 8, 15, 24, 35, 48. So obviously the tables are different. That's something you want to note right off the bat. So let's go ahead and get that table down. 3, 8, 15, 24, I think it was 35, yeah. Alright, so now that we have our tables, we can look at these and say, well, these obviously are not the same, okay? Not the same. So they probably are not equivalent. Okay, doesn't suggest equivalence. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and make the graphs. Now remember, when I asked you guys to make these graphs, and these problems are straight off my open math, you just want to plot all of these points. So like for the first one, we're going to plot 0, 3, 1, 0. So let's see, we have 0, 3, 1, 0, 2, negative 1, 3, 0. Okay, you're gonna have to estimate that one. It's gonna be here somewhere. Alright, 3, 0, and then I think it was 4, 3. Yep, and then 5, 8. So again, notice how I'm graphing all of them. Again, for some of them you have to estimate. So I've graphed those, so now let's graph the next table. We have 0, 3, 1, 8, 2, 15. So 0, 3, 1, 8, 2, 15. 324, 435. And 548. Alright, so that's all you have to do for the graph and the tables. And then at this point you have to, look at these and be like, do these look like they could be the same? Not really, because the points are totally different. So we're going to say that it does not suggest equivalence. Okay, so make sure you know how to do that, just in terms of getting the graph, getting the table, being able to explain why you think that they're equivalent, why you think they're not equivalent, that sort of thing. Alright, Now, the last way we can do it is algebraically. Now, remember, there are two options when you're doing it algebraically. You can either start at f of x and see if you can achieve g of x, or you can start at g of x and see if you can achieve f of x too. Either way, you know, it'll get you to the same place. So let's do the first method first. I do want to show you guys both. So if I'm looking at f of x, I'm like, I wonder if g of x is equivalent. Obviously, g of x is in factored form, and f of x is in standard form, so it's going to be a good idea to just go ahead and box and diamond this guy and see if we get this. So let's go ahead and commence box and diamond. Alright, so we got first term up here, third term down here. Hopefully you guys remember how to do this. I know we've done a lot of it. Alright, and now it's time for the diamond. So first term times the third term gets us the top of the diamond, and the middle term gets us the bottom. Okay, so now you play the game. What two numbers multiply to make 3 and add to make -4? Hopefully you would eventually come to the conclusion that that is -3 and -1. So we're going to get -3x and -1x and fill the rest of our boxes. Right, now we can fill out the outside. So what times what equals x squared? Well, that's x. X times what is -1x? That's going to be -1. And then x times what is -3x? That's -3. And so I end up with x minus 1, x minus 3. You look at g of x and you're like, man, those are not the same. So then we know for a fact that they are not equivalent. Alright, so that's the one way to do it. The other way to do it is you can start with this, and you can multiply them out. So you can do your box, your 2x2 box, and we can set these up as x plus 1 and x plus 3. Thinner pen here. So x times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, x times 3 is 3x, and then 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, now that we've multiplied them, we need to, add them all together and simplify. So we have x squared plus 1x plus 3x plus 3. All I'm doing is I'm adding all the terms in the box. We can combine these two, so we end up with x squared plus 4x plus 3. Now, that is definitely not equal to this, because that has a minus 4x. So they're not equal, so that tells you also that they're not equivalent. You can use both of these methods, but if I require you to do one of them on the test, then I will mention it. Alright. So, lastly here we have a more multiplication of polynomials, but this time this is the kind that requires that 2x3 box. Okay, because this one has 2 terms and this one has 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this, because otherwise my box is going to be real ugly. Ooh, look how nice that looks. Alright. So here we have our 2x3 box. So now we're ready to set it up based on what our problem is. We have negative 3x plus 2, so that's the 2-termed one, so it has to go on the side with 2 spaces. And then on this side we'll have this one, negative 4x squared plus 4x minus 1. Okay, now we're ready to multiply. And you have to be very careful with exponents in here. Okay, so negative 3x times negative 4x squared. Negative 3 times negative 4 is 12. That's cool and all. But remember that x times x squared is x cubed, because now there's 3 x's you're multiplying together, right? There's 2 here and 1 here, so it turns into a cubed. Here, negative 3x times 4x, that's going to be a negative 12x squared. Negative 3x times negative 1 is 3x. 2 times negative 4x squared is negative 8x squared. 4x times 2 is 8x. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Alright, now that I've filled out my box, I can go ahead and start doing some simplifying. This is where I have to add everything together in the box, just like I did up here. Oops. So now, we can take a look first, though, at the like terms. So like right here, you know that these are both x squared terms, so we can combine them. Negative 8 plus negative 12, that's going to give me a negative 20. So we have negative 20x squared when we combine those. And then when we do it for these two x terms, that's going to give us 8 plus 3 is 11, so 11x. Okay, now I can easily just combine everything together. So I have a 12x cubed minus 20x squared plus 11x, and then I have a little minus 2 in there still. And this is the simplified answer. Be very, very careful. Double, triple check your work for this one, guys. I see a lot of tiny, tiny mistakes. Alright, one last problem here, and it's just factoring, basic factoring. We're not even solving or anything. So let's just box and diamond this. Let's actually use this thing. Oh, all over the place here. Alright, let's make a nice box this time. Okay, so as usual, we're going to go ahead and put the first term in the top left. Bottom right is going to be the third term. Okay, now it's diamond. We have first times third, so 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, so we get a negative 10x squared, and then down at the bottom we get the negative 9x. And now we play the game. What two numbers multiply to make negative 10 and add to make negative 9? Hopefully you would find that you would have negative 10x and positive 1x. Okay, when we add those we get negative 9, when we multiply them we get negative 10. So let's use those for our box. Alright, and then we can fill out the rest of it. So here's the thing you have to watch out for, though. Because there's a 2 up front, we're going to need to have a 2 in one of these spots. We already know it's going to be x and x up here, but again, we need that 2 in there, and it's all about picking whether the 2 goes up top or on the side. So if I had put the 2 on the side, there's no way I can fill out, find a good number for here, because 2 times what equals 1, it just doesn't work, right? You would need a decimal. But if I put it here, it works because 2 goes into negative 10 just fine. Okay, 2 times negative 5 is going to get us that negative 10, so negative 5 times 2x is what we need there. And then x times what is 1x? It's just going to be 1. So when we factored it, we got 2x plus 1 and x minus 5. Okay, that's all. Please make sure you're familiar with these things. Make sure you do the problems on my Up in Math. We'll continue to review tomorrow.